Hi, welcome to Indira's World. I'm back. You couldn't get rid of me. And I've had my nails done. So let's just get on with it. Today's show is called Vegan Do It. As you may have guessed, there's been a lot of requests for vegan food. So I'm going to use the big Q, which is quinoa. And I'm starting with the Q2 Pillau, which is quinoa and quorn, which is of course meat substitute, and I'm making a pillau, and then we're going to follow that with a quinoa kheer. Kheer is an Indian word for a dessert, and it's usually served either hot or cold and milk based, but in this case I haven't used milk, I've used almond milk, so it can be vegan friendly. So shall we get on with it before I forget the recipe? Now, we're going to start with introducing the spices and a herb to the program. First, I'm going to be adding to oil to 2 tablespoons, but you can go up depending on how much oil you like. I'm going to add to that half a chopped onions, some garlic and ginger, a tablespoon of each, a cup of tomatoes, which I roughly used about 3 tomatoes chopped. Some roughly chopped coriander, here again 1 handful. You know, I have very precise measurements here, 1 handful. The juice of 1 lemon, large lemon. Now, in the terms of the dry spices, I'm going to be using a tablespoon of curry powder, a tablespoon of cumin, a teaspoon of garam masala, a teaspoon of turmeric, a teaspoon of cumin seeds, and a teaspoon of salt. To that I've added 1 cinnamon stick and a bay leaf. I sometimes add 2 bay leaves, I do like them. So that is our basic spices for today. I'm going to move on to the rather colorful vegetables and corn mince. So the vegetables: half a cup of spring onions chopped, courgettes, same amount, mixed peppers, carrots, green beans, and a tablespoon of green peas or more, depending on what you want. And I have also used a cup of corn minced. Now you can get various sorts of vegan meat substitutes, and I particularly like this. So I like the texture. Following that, we'll go on to add our quinoa and then garnish it with some nice nuts. So without wasting much time, I'm going to carry on. Okay, so let's rock and roll. Here we have 2 tablespoons of olive oil. Again, that very pretty tablespoon that my sister gave me from San Francisco. My sister from San Francisco, not the tablespoon. Probably both, actually, coming to think of it. Here we have a tablespoon of garlic and a tablespoon of ginger. Now I've used fresh. I love all of my stuff fresh because it always smells and tastes so much better. To that, half a chopped onion and 1 disastrous tomato, which is not a problem. Now I'm going to use 1 cup of chopped tomatoes. All this goes in together. And now I'm going to turn up that heat a bit because we want that to sizzle and all the dry smells and the raw smells to go away. The onion and garlic and tomato. Onion is a good blood thinner, so is garlic. They all cleanse. Ginger has umpteen qualities that you really need for you, especially stomach. It's great for your stomach. They use it a lot in detoxing as well. Now to this I've added a teaspoon of garam masala, a tablespoon of cumin powder, a teaspoon of cumin seeds, 1 barking dog, a teaspoon of turmeric, teaspoon of salt, and a teaspoon of curry powder. All that is going in there, and as it's cooking, I'm going to clear my cooker top, which I've just destroyed. That smells divine. Try not to get this onto your clothes because turmeric does stain. And it can be really difficult to take the stains off. Now to this I'm going to add the juice of my lemon. That goes in. That actually, oh, that smells so nice. And my fresh coriander. A very technical handful of coriander, roughly chopped. The reason is I'm not very good at finely chopping. Now, to this very aromatic concoction, I will add my green beans, carrots, spring onions, courgettes, and mixed peppers. Now, I just want you to know you can use whatever little bits are left in the fridge, like, you know, it could be aubergine, it could be whatever you want. My green peas are going in there now. So just remember, when you're left with one carrot or half a courgette or whatever, just use up all the bits. It does help. Now we're going to cook this through till the vegetables are almost done. I like a little crunch in it, but if you like it softer, that's up to you. Which is why I'm not going to add much water. I'm just going to add about 1/4 cup, and to that my corn mince. And there you go. Let's cook that up, and at the end we add in the quinoa. Now I've put under a teaspoon of salt, but there again it's up to you what you want to add to this. I'm always worried about over salting, but you can't really undo it, can you? If you under salt, you can always pass the salt cellar around the table. Now that is cooking away, and to this I am going to add just under 100 grams of boiled quinoa. I boiled it because I don't like it to be very warm when I'm cooking it. I like it to cool down. It tends to separate easier. Now we just lid that and let it do its magic. Plate it up, add some dried nuts. I've used some dried onion, dried raisins, some cashew nuts and pistachio nuts, all chopped up together, and that's going to get flung on the top and straight onto the table. So there you go. Right, now my next dish, which is quinoa kheer. Kheer, as I said earlier, is an Indian dessert. Now here I have 1/2 pint of almond milk, so it's for lactose intolerant and also for vegan recipe, that's perfect. I've got 1/2 cup of quinoa cooked. Now you can use more or less depending on how thick you like your desserts. 2 tablespoons of almond ground, so you get ground almond in packets, easy enough. I've used pistachio nuts, some raisins, 2 different colored raisins, and dried rose buds. Also I've used some cashew nut. This is all going to go on the top and some of it in the milk when I'm boiling it. 2 tablespoons of sugar, but there again, if you like your desserts sweeter, you go for it. If you like it less sweet, which is how we do it, you use 1.5 to 2 tablespoons of sugar. Now here in my pestle and mortar, every woman's best friend, apart from the diamonds, is 2 cloves and 1 cardamom pod, which you put in there and bang away till you get a very fine powder. In this case, not so fine powder. And so here we go. Right. Now, here is my boily milky pan thing, which is the technical term they use in kitchens. Not. Now, to this pan, I am adding half a pint of almond milk, which I'm going to boil. Now, to that, I'm adding my cardamom and cloves. I'm using about half a teaspoon, but because it is quite strong. I'm going to pop that in, and we're going to boil it and boil it and boil it until it gets quite thick. Right, now you see this almond milk of mine with the cardamom and cloves bubbling away. Now to this I'm going to add my half cup of quinoa, 2 tablespoons. It's already cooked, so you must make sure you pre-cook quinoa, otherwise it takes forever to make this. And also it doesn't come out as soft as you want it, so pre-cook it, don't forget. In other words, boil. Right. And up you go again. Now to this I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of ground almond powder, which looks something like that, which is exactly what it is, ground almond. And to that I'm going to add my sugar, which is just under 2 tablespoons. Again, I just put a little bit less. I'm sugar shy. Now that's going to keep boiling again. So we're going to try and reduce the milk so it gets quite viscous and thick, which is what kheer usually looks like. You can have a rice pudding, rice kheer, or semolina, sago, and any of, that sort of stuff, and tapioca even. But here, now to this I'm adding my raisins, nuts. I'm going to keep some aside to garnish with, which is all the raisins and pistachio and cashew nuts, which name I keep forgetting for some inexplicable reason. And now that is almost done. Once that thickens, we can serve that up, as I said, hot or cold, and then garnish it with the remaining nuts and dried fruits. And I have very pretty dried rosebuds, which are actually edible. So that goes on the top. It's just pretty. It actually tastes of dried rosebuds. So let that finish and I will serve it up. Right, and here we have it. Here is my quinoa pulao with quorn. So Q2 pulao. I thought that was quite cute too. Anyway, there. I've served this up with a little yogurt raita, which is just yogurt, tomato, coriander, and I've sprinkled some chili powder because it looks pretty. And that's the main course. And our dessert, which is my quinoa kheer. Now, I put it on very Asian, Indian-y old silver, and it looks much prettier. So that's all I have to say about the food. But what I do have to say is, don't forget to follow me on Instagram if you haven't already, and give me a thumbs up, and I shall see you next week.